What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and to another Overwatch League discussion video. Today I thought I'd do something a bit more on the fun side by telling you which player I like the most on each team. I wouldn't really say there's much criteria that I'm going off of here. Most guys that I mention are likely here because they're entertaining to watch, but there's also a few other reasons that may factor in as well. Oh, and before I begin, feel free to join the discussion down in the comment section by listing off your favorite player on every team as well. And that's basically everything I wanted to say in the intro, so without further ado, let's get started. Let's go in alphabetical order in terms of the teams, which means that first up is the Atlanta Reign. This is actually kind of tough, I'm not gonna lie. If Dufresne was still on the team, the choice would be pretty easy. Don't get me wrong though, I actually like a bunch of the Atlanta players. It's hard to go wrong with Pokebo because of his incredible Winston, or Dako for how much of a hard carry he is on D.Va. But as much as I love these guys, I have to go with Erster as my favorite player on the Reign. Why Erster of all people, you may ask? I personally believe that he is incredibly fun to watch. I love how he can pop off on pretty much any character in his hero pool. I personally have always been a really big fan of his Brig, but it goes beyond what he's done in GOAT. Who can forget the ridiculous 6k he got on Tracer against the Justice? Watching Erster be an absolute flex god is just so much fun. This man does not get enough attention. In my opinion, he is one of the most underrated players in the Overwatch League. I feel that he does not get talked about nearly enough for someone who can dominate on pretty much any hero he plays. As we move on to the Boston Uprising, things get a bit easier for me. Believe it or not, but I don't really care for a majority of their players. It's not that I dislike them, it's more that they don't do enough to catch my eye. There is one guy in particular though who does stand out for me on Boston, and that is of course Fusions. He may not be the flashiest or most consistent tank in the league, but one thing that I love about this man is the leadership he brings. He is easily the face of this franchise right now because of that quality alone. Something about watching Fusions lead the rest of his team into battle is just magical. Being able to listen as he communicates is an absolutely incredible experience, and I don't know if I've ever seen the man not talk when the camera pans over to him mid-game. I firmly believe that Boston would not have been able to reverse sweep so many teams this year without Fusions being there to give his team words of encouragement. One other quality that I love about Fusions is how humble he is. No matter how well he does in game, he always praises his teammates in any sort of post-game interview or social media post. The guy could have the game of his life, but still feel like someone else on his team deserves player of the match over him. Fusions is definitely a class act. Up next, we have the Chengdu Hunters, and if I had to pick a favorite player, I think I would go with Jinmu, with Among being a close second. As much as I love Among's big brain Chad plays on Reinhardt and Wrecking Ball, I have to admit that I have a soft spot for strong Pharah and Hanzo play, and that is exactly what Jinmu brings to the table. I swear he makes highlight reel worthy plays on one of these heroes every single game. He is literally so good at Pharah and Hanzo that you can make an argument he is one of the best in the Overwatch League at both of them. That's how amazing this guy is. I would say he is one of the top 3 playmakers on his team without a doubt. It's easy. He enables his team to win fights without having to commit a lot of ultimate since he's so good at finding picks using pure mechanical skill alone. Next up is the Dallas Fuel, and my 2 favorite players on this team by far are Note and Mickey. If Mickey still actually played, I probably would have picked him, but since he's stuck on the bench, I'm going with Note. Don't get me wrong, I love Mickey to death. His onstage antics are amazing, and he's probably the most positive person I've ever seen in my entire life. But his D.Va play unfortunately leaves a lot to be desired. And that is where Note comes in. He too is a pretty good guy, but he's top tier when it comes to consistent D.Va play. I have a lot of respect for this man. He's been able to pop off even after getting traded to a new team. This shows just how good Note really is. It doesn't matter what the environment is around him, he is going to do his job on D.Va regardless. Okay, 4 teams down, 16 to go. Up next is the Florida Mayhem. I don't know what it is about these guys, but a majority of their players are pretty forgettable. Most of them are either too new for me to get an opinion on, or they're just really bad. The only players I really like, with Zephyr memes aside, are Fate and Saya player. But the only reason I really like Saya is because he's a flashy Widow. There's nothing else that he really does that impresses me all that much, so by process of elimination, my favorite player on Florida is Fate. I know he hasn't been very good this year, but in 2018 when he was on the Valiant, he was regarded as a top 5 main tank in the league. The man was a model of consistency when he played Winston and Orisa. You could make the argument that he was the best player on the Valiant last year, and for good reason. He was usually pretty good with not making a lot of mistakes. One other reason I really like Fate though is because he is a natural born leader like with Fusions. On the Valiant, he was the main shot caller and the person that the rest of the team felt like they could follow. This especially goes for the moments when Custa was not yet on the team. Although Fate has moved on from my favorite team and has struggled greatly at times this year, he is still one of my favorite players in the Overwatch League. Moving on to the Guangzhou Charge, I must admit that I actually like a handful of their players. They have some insane individual talent. Hoppa has proven time and time again to be a crazy diva and overall flex, and Happy is arguably a top Widowmaker in the league. But as much as I love both of these guys, neither of them are my favorite on the team. That title belongs to none other than Shu. In my opinion, as of right now, he is a top 5 flex support in the league. If you don't pay much attention to the Charge, then do yourself a favor and pay extra close attention to Shu. The man is a nutty Ana in Zenyatta. Spectate his POV if you have the All Access Pass. If you're a support enthusiast like myself, or enjoy watching bloodthirsty supports, I promise you won't be disappointed in Shu's gameplay. Next up is the Hangzhou Spark, and while there are plenty of talented players on their roster, my favorite player by far has to be Guangzhou. I know this answer may seem kind of boring, but the fact of the matter is that Guangzhou is awesome. I don't really know how else to explain it. Ever since I first got the pleasure of watching him during the World Cup last year, he has been one of my favorite tank players to watch. His Winston mechanics are nasty. Watching him use Primal Rage is something else, but it goes beyond his Winston. His overall tank play is very pleasant to watch. Another reason I like Guangzhou so much though is because he plays on a team almost completely comprised of Koreans, and he still found great success even though he's Chinese. Imagine still dominating on a game-to-game basis while trying to learn Korean. I respect Guangzhou so much for learning a completely different language. And it's not like he's been learning English. He's been studying a language that is far more difficult to master. Mad props to both him and Crystal. Alright, it's Houston Outlaws time, and I know some of you are going to be mad at me for saying this, but my favorite player on the team is Jake. It goes beyond the funny J-Look and Junkrat memes though. I know he isn't quite what he used to be, but in 2017, the man was a god. His DPS play was incredible. His Soldier 76 in particular was just amazing. Anyone else remember the pop-off moments he had on that hero against South Korea? I remember watching him dominate on Soldier even before the World Cup though. You see, back before the Overwatch League was a thing, I used to support the Immortals, aka the team that would become the LA Valiant. And there was this one game in particular where the Immortals were taking on Jake's team, which was LG Evil at the time, and he absolutely rolled my team on Soldier. It was painful to watch. I swear that domination still gives me nightmares to this day. I don't just like Jake because of his in-game performances though. I also feel that he is a great human being. Watching him be so active in so many other ways to help the community out is fantastic. He's made his own esports blog, streamed for charity, and likes to push for certain causes that he feels strongly about, such as mental health. Hate on Jake all you want, but at the end of the day, he's a really good dude whether you like it or not. How about the London Spitfire, you may ask? Well, this one is kind of a tough call for me. I could pick Prophet for his ability to almost always show up in the clutch while masterfully crushing the competition on every hero he picks up, or maybe Gesture because of his swagger and Winston. I respect both of these players a lot, but I must admit that my absolute favorite player on London is Fury. My reasoning behind it is very simple. The man is a flex tank god. The main attraction with Fury is obviously how consistent he is on D.Va. He by far negates the most ultimates with defense matrix in the league, and he's usually pretty good with his self-destruct placements as well. I swear he is playing D.Va down to a science, but I feel that people often forget that he's not only good at D.Va. He's always been a pretty good Roadhog in Zarya, and he's recently shown that he can play a mean Pharah on Hanzo too. Whether you like London or not, I would say a majority of Overwatch League fans respect Fury. As we reach the halfway mark of the video, the next team up on the list is the Gladiators. Although I'm a Valiant fan, I will admit that the players on the Gladiators are very likable. Some of the standouts for me are Void for his absurdly consistent D.Va play, and Big Goose for playing Lucio so aggressively. But if I had to choose one player that I like more than the others, I would have to go with Surefour. Now obviously, I could go on all day about how amazing he is when it comes to heroes such as McCree and Widow, but instead I wanted to bring up the other reason why I love him so much. I'm not sure about the rest of you, but I watch his streams a lot, and every time I do, I always leave satisfied. He has the perfect personality. He likes to joke around with his teammates in comp and with his stream. Surefour is usually pretty vocal on how he feels about the game as well, so I'm interested usually to hear his opinions on certain things. Next up, we must talk about the Valiant. Since this is my favorite team, picking a player is not easy. Space, Kariv, and Custa are all absolutely amazing for more reasons than one. But for those of you who at least kind of know me, it should be obvious that my favorite player on the Valiant is Agilities. But he isn't just my favorite player on the team. He's my favorite player in the entire Overwatch League, and there's a multitude of reasons why. For one, his projectile play is ridiculously entertaining. His signature Genji and Pharah are something else. Whenever Agilities gets the opportunity to play either of these heroes, I get very excited. Watching him destroy enemies with Dragon Blade or dominating the opposing Pharah in the sky is satisfying. Overall, Agilities tends to be a good flex. Watch him play Roadhog or Doomfist. I promise he won't let you down. But why else do I like Agility so much? Well, to be honest, part of the reason I like him so much is because I've watched him grow so much as a player since the Immortals days. He has gone from someone who could basically just play Genji and Roadhog to a beastly flex player. Plus, watching him provides me with feelings of Immortals nostalgia. Moving on from the Valiant, we have the NYXL, and this is yet another roster full of likable players. Mono and Meko make for a very consistent tank line, and both Jonak and Anima are two of the top support players in the league. And it would be easy to pick Pine or Liberal for their flashy highlight reel plays. But my favorite player on the NYXL has to be Sabiobi. Not only is he arguably the best tracer in the entire world, but his overall hit scan is really good. His McCree and Widow are definitely underrated, and now he's recently added Sombra to the list of heroes he can play as well. More than anything though, I enjoy watching his tracer. There are very few players in the world who can thoroughly crush their opponents with Tracer the way SBB does it. Another reason I'm a huge fan of Sabiobi is because he is one of the NYXL's leaders. He seems to know how to do everything right when it comes to working with his teammates. He always does the right thing. If you pay close attention, he is almost always one of the first people on his team to praise everybody for winning a round or a match. Sabi always seems like a fun person to be around. He's funny and very positive. Next up is the Pears Eternal, and no offense Pears fans, but I don't really care for most of their players. The only guys I really like are Soon, Shadowburn, and Cruz, but if I was forced to pick one of them, I would say that Soon is my favorite. My Valiant bias is once again coming out here, but Soon on DPS is very entertaining to watch. I've always been a big fan of his Tracer. He might be one of the sneakiest Tracer players alive, but his Widow is arguably even better and more fun to watch. Around stage 3 of last year, Soon's Widow really started to take off, and if what time was said about Widow players making big strides in their accuracy is true, then Soon will likely be a threat if Pears decide to run him again, and we've kind of already gotten a sneak peek of what he's capable of if you saw those 6 shots he landed against the Spark back in stage 2 during the Dallas homestand. Overall, I very much enjoy watching Soon, and I'm looking forward to possibly see him get another chance of playing in the near future. Moving on to the Philadelphia Fusion, there's only one player in particular that I could really consider my favorite, and that obviously is Carpe. Can you really blame me for making such an obvious pick here? The man is a hard carry machine. Without Carpe, the Fusion would be nothing. More often than not, it's been Carpe who makes the big plays. The ridiculous plays he makes on Widow, McCree, and Tracer make you question if the guy's even human. Even if you don't really care for the Fusion as a team, you could always count on Carpe to provide you with entertainment. Now for my favorite player on the Shock. This one is kind of tough since there's so many players on the team, but I'm going to be very unoriginal and boring by saying that my favorite player is Super. If this was last year's Super, I probably would have gone with maybe Striker or Nevix or something, but the fact of the matter is that Super has grown so much as a player. It's gotten to the point where he's arguably the best Reinhardt in the league. Super never fails to put on a good show when he's on Rein. The other reason I like Super so much is because of his personality. I know a bunch of people are not a big fan of it, but I personally believe that Super is really funny. Listening to his funny commentary and the remarks he makes about his chat on stream is always enjoyable. Moving on to the Seoul Dynasty, my favorite player is none other than Fleta. Yes, I know this is kind of an unoriginal pick, but can you blame me for having him here after how crazy he was in Season 1? He's a flex legend, and he can pretty much play anything you need other than Tracer. I enjoy watching him on Pharah and Widowmaker in particular. He can pretty much match any other player in the Overwatch League stride for stride on both of these heroes. Alright, it's time for the final 4. Starting off with the Shanghai Dragons, my favorite player without a doubt is Guangzhou. Last year, his Winston was ultimately one of the reasons why Boston found so much success, and even after switching teams, he's still winning games. He's not just dominating on Winston these days though. His Reinhardt has improved drastically since Season 1, and his Wrecking Ball hasn't been too shabby either. One other reason I find Guangzhou so likable is because he's so down to earth. The dude does nothing but spread positivity on his social media. He's always posting pics of him and his dog going for hikes, or finding some other way to bless my Twitter feed with positivity. What is there to not like about Guangzhou? Next up is the Toronto Defiant, and if this was pre-Mangachu and Logic signings, I definitely would have gone with Neko, but since Mr. Logic is now a member of Toronto, I have no choice but to call him my favorite player on this team. Watching Logix is always a blast for me. He was literally one of the only reasons why I could even bear watching a Florida game last year due to his heroics on Tracer and Widowmaker. Needless to say, him not being in the Overwatch League coming into Season 2 really bummed me out. I have mad respect for Logix for putting in the work during his contenders and finally finding a team that was willing to pay him a good amount of money, and he's already made his presence felt ever since coming back. He's still the animal he was when he left, and I can't wait to watch him some more in Stage 4. Coming in as the second to last team is the Vancouver Titans, and it's kind of hard to go wrong with any of these players, am I right? Every starter on the roster is insane, but if I was forced to pick one favorite, I would select Bumper. The reasoning is simple. He has to be one of the most entertaining players to watch in this entire league, and it goes beyond the crazy aggressive tank play that gives his team the needed space and the fat earth shatters he lands on Rein. This guy swaps onto DPS, and it's not like he only does it against bad teams either. He's played Hanzo against the NYXL and San Francisco Shock. Talk about gutsy. He's also played Junkrat, Tracer, Pharah, and Widowmaker if you weren't already aware. Some may see it as a sign of disrespect towards his opponents, but I see it as a guy who's trying to have some extra fun on stage while giving the fans some extra entertainment. And finally, there's the Washington Justice, and I have to say that my favorite player on this team without a doubt is Sleepy. I was always a big fan of his during Season 1 when he started for the Shock, and I still feel the same way about him now. Sleepy is a very entertaining Zenyatta and Ana player, and he's arguably the #1 flex support from the United States. His Ana in particular is kind of insane. Kind of like with Jonek and Jaehong, Sleepy also likes to deal a lot of damage. As a support main, seeing extremely offensive Ana play is very entertaining. I'm also a big Sleepy fan because he seems like a pleasant person to be around, kind of like with Surefour or Guangzhou. Sleepy streams are always very chill, and he never fails to make me smile when I'm in desperate need for someone to put me in a good mood. Welp, that's all of them. That is my favorite player on every single Overwatch League team as of right now. What did you guys think of my choices? Let me know down in the comment section. If you enjoyed this content, then be sure to like and subscribe. As always, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and until next time, this is ATP, signing out. Peace.